The show is about to begin.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready, because you're listening to the program that voices the public.
I want to have fun.
You're listening to Chalk Talk with Andras T.
He's a brave and a decent man. He's a pioneer.
Here on FM Sports Radio 1017, The Team.
Let's do this.
Now, the host of the show, Andras T.
Well, we got a lot for you today and a lot of great information for those out there with what we're going to be talking about. And to help me explain what we're going to be talking about, I have Andrew Tubesing. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Good morning.
All right. How's everything going? Everything going good for you?
Pretty well. I'm feeling good. That's the best thing.
That's what counts. So let's talk a little bit about yourself before we talk about colitis and Crohn's disease, which we're going to be covering today. Talk a little bit about yourself. Where you're from? What's your background?
Well, I'm originally from Minnesota. I'm a transplant to New Mexico about 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm an electrical engineer. I work at New Mexico Tech. I live in Albuquerque.
So let's talk a little bit about, I mentioned colitis and Crohn's disease, and you're going to help us explain what that is. So we'll start off with colitis. What is colitis?
Well, colitis and Crohn's disease together we refer to as inflammatory bowel disease. They are inflammatory diseases of the digestive system. And what sets them apart is colitis is typically restricted just to the colon.
Okay.
Crohn's disease can occur anywhere through the digestive system from the entry to exit point.
Now, breaking this down, what is the basis of this? What is the cause of this?
Well, it's an immune system problem.
Okay. Deficiency?
Well, it's not a deficiency, actually. It's an overactivity.
Overactivity, okay.
Basically, the way they understand it now is that it's a combination of a genetic predisposition along with some sort of pathogen and the body's response to that pathogen. What happens with us is the body responds to that, tries to get rid of it, and never shuts off the inflammatory reaction. And so then we have this chronic inflammation. Crohn's disease patients get it most of the time in the small intestine, but they can have it anywhere.
Now, do colitis and Crohn's disease go hand in hand? You can't have one without the other, or how does that work?
Well, it used to be we thought of those as two manifestations of the same disease. But nowadays, they're starting to appreciate that they may just be two separate in a family of inflammatory diseases.
How does this affect people? I mean, is this something that a lot of Americans or people around the world face? Is it commonality?
There's about 1.5 million Americans with inflammatory bowel disease. We call it IBD. That works out to be about 1 in every 200 people, or 0.5%. In New Mexico, that means probably we have about 10,000 patients.
Oh, okay. And how does one go about getting diagnosed for this? Is this something?
Most patients will tell you it's a harder process than it should be.
Okay.
It's a difficult disease to diagnose because a lot of our symptoms are common to other ailments that doctors are very happy to pass off as other sorts of things. Oh, it's just stress. Oh, it's in your head. The kinds of symptoms we have are generally digestive mishaps. I mean, I guess that's the external manifestation. It's hard to get diagnosed. The best way is to see a gastroenterologist.
Okay.
That's what most of us see to get diagnosed or for our long-term care.
In regards to the history of this, when was this first diagnosed?
It's been within this century that they've really appreciated what it is and started to hone in on Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, but I don't actually know.
well, we'll get that when we come back. But we're going to take a quick little break. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America and the Take Steps Walk you don't want to miss. So stay tuned. This is your host, Andres C., here on Chalk Talk.
Like a bubble. Compton and Long Beach together. Now you know you in trouble. Ain't nothing but a G thing, babe.
All right, we're back here on Chalk Talk. This is your host, Andres T. And all right, we're here with Andrew Tubesing, and he is talking to us about colitis and Crohn's disease. Now, Andrew is an author of his book, Colitiscope, and he is written about his experiences with this. So let's go ahead and dive into it. What is your experience with this? How are you connected with it?
Well, I'm a board member for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is something I got involved in after I was diagnosed. I also lead the local support group for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis patients. I wrote my story basically because it was a good coping tool for me. While a lot of times the experiences of a patient are not funny while we're experiencing them, in hindsight, they often can be, and I really use humor as a coping tool for myself. And so basically I wrote a book that's a humorous way to come to understanding what these diseases are all about.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you go about treating this? What is there a certain process you have to take, or is there a certain medication?
Most of the medications that are prescribed target the immune system in some way or another, and trying to slow down or hinder certain processes within the immune system that are believed to cause the sustained inflammation. There's a lot of different families of drugs that do that. Different ones work for different people, and there are new ones coming out all the time. The latest generation they call biologics. They target yet another immune response, but these are injectables or infusion drugs that are really expensive. They're a little bit more difficult to get just because you can't take a pill, but they're showing to be highly effective for patients. There are also some natural remedies. There are a lot of things you can do with your diet that can help your symptoms. Doctors are careful to clarify that this disease is not caused by diet or food, but that doesn't mean that diet isn't highly relevant for us. Anybody with digestive problems knows that food absolutely affects how you feel and affects your symptoms. There can be a lot of pain involved, but for us, symptom-wise, it's all about the bathroom. So in terms of treatment, well, the best treatment is to stay within maybe 15 or 20 seconds of the bathroom. That's first priority.
Okay.
And, of course, the medications, some of them can be invasive. Some of them have risks. They all have risks associated with them, and it can be a dark road to walk as a patient to try to figure out what medications you're comfortable with, which ones are going to work for you. And that's one of the things the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation does. It sponsors research that may or may not otherwise get studied to help patients with those kinds of things. Certainly pharmaceutical companies are sponsoring lots of research, but that's the kind of research that leads to a patent on a pharmaceutical that they can sell. They have to invest about $1 billion to get a new drug on the market. But there's lots of other things that will help patients that need to be studied as well that don't have a profitable angle. And so about half of the research that the CCFA raises goes to studies like that otherwise wouldn't get funded. And so that's why now we're starting to have studies that show that probiotic medications are
starting to help.
Yes, they are. And in the past, they've been sort of passed off as a natural remedy that's unproven. Well, the reason those are unproven is because, and not that everything costs that much money, but somebody's got to pay for that stuff. And that's one of the things that we do, and those things really do help patients.
Your experience with this, you were telling me before the show that you actually have a funny story about being in hockey gear. This is one from my childhood where there is a minimum amount of time it takes to get out of hockey gear. I probably don't have to describe what we're talking about here. Okay.
And that's a lot of what's in my book. There's a lot of things that I can laugh about now that I certainly couldn't at the time. I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, so if you have an emergency somewhere, there's always the woods and leaves and things like that. But now that I live in the desert, there's two words that guarantee that I'm never unprepared.
And what's that?
Rocks and cactus.
Now, accessibility to a bathroom is very important.
It is.
I mean, in regards to people's emotions and feelings, is this something that's embarrassing? Is this something? How does that human's emotion deal with this?
It's basically a fear of humiliation at all times. It's extremely stressful. When symptoms are active, a lot of people just don't go out.
They stay home.
Well, when you think about it, when you're out and about town at a sporting event or at a carnival or any place that you enjoy going, how quickly do you think you can get to a bathroom?
Not very quickly. I mean,
Exactly.
there's always a line. There's always people you got to get through.
And that highlights something about this disease that's hidden to most people because it's embarrassing, so we don't talk about it a lot. But we have a legitimate disability. There's a handicap involved here where we just can't function without being close to a bathroom when symptoms are active. So a lot of our political advocacy goes after that angle. Restroom access is a big issue. A lot of states have passed legislation that goes after access to restrooms, asking businesses to allow people to use their private restrooms if they need it and so on. It's a difficult thing because it gets into public health versus private property and government intervention kinds of things. So I can understand both sides of it, but I also can tell you that when we need a bathroom, the need is absolute. And if I find myself in your place of business and I need a bathroom,
you're gone.
For better or worse, I'm going to go to the bathroom in your place of business one way or another, so you might as well get me to the bathroom.
Exactly. So we're going to take a quick little break, but when we come back, we will tell you how you can get involved with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. We'll talk more about it, and how to get involved with the Take Steps Walk. So you don't want to miss this. This is your host, Andres T, here on Chalk Talk.